All right, everybody should see something that says, or at least people on the Zoom should see something that says this video is now being recorded. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and click this open button, and I want to open that file. And if I click open files, it will then browse me to wherever I last saved a file, which was in my Spring folder. And I'm going to go to my downloads, and it might automatically have a DWG as a file type, and you're not seeing this template. So go ahead and change the file type at the bottom to DWT. And now let's look and see if you can find that construction template. Can you see from there? Okay, because it's really hard to see in that spot. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click this template. I'm going to click open. And there we go. So that's opening the template. And you'll notice that it doesn't have a bunch of grids turned on it right now. It does have all of your object snaps turned on, which is going to just help you streamline your process. It has, like I said, some built-in text dimensions. So if I go to this annotation drop down in my home tab, you can now see I've got Arial 2-inch, Arial 4-inch, and Arial 6-inch text, as well as my dimensions with 2-inch, 4-inch, and 6-inch dimensioning. And then last but not least, your properties palette should automatically be up. You want to leave that open. And if it's not up, let me show you how to get it. So if for some reason you don't have any properties, and you're probably not going to have this new Forma Connect, so I'll just close that. We want to right click. A couple ways to do this. We can type in PROP and just it'll bring up properties, and we can just click that properties, and it's going to bring up your properties on your left hand side. Okay, that's typical default is this left side. One thing that you can do with this properties, if I like to leave it up, I don't like things auto hiding and then pulling back out all the time. However, if you don't want to see it all the time, there is if you go to right here, where it says properties in this little black bar, there is a hide button. So then when you come over, you can get it, and when your mouse is off of it, it auto collapses. I like it being open. If you want to keep it open, again, go back up to it. It might be right here now. This right click auto hide, and now it will be set. So if you want to use it to hide, I don't care. But the biggest thing is you know how to get to your properties and utilize this menu. And we'll talk more about it. But this menu is kind of the lifeline. This is where we're going to find out all of our information. Everything that is going on with our elements will be shown in the properties. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, just click on the model. Someone's may have opened up. Actually, probably everybody's opened up this way because this is where the last place I was when I saved it, right? I deleted that title block. So everyone probably opened up to here. Just click back to your model space and we're back here. Okay. So again, this is paper space. I've got a title block that's already living here. There should only be one though. Anyhow, I've got it living there, and we'll take a look at the title blocks a little bit later. So any questions on this template, what I gave you? Last thing I guess we'll go over real quick is properties. Okay, so tonight we're probably just going to stay on 0. But as we move further into this course, different layers will be used to do different things. For instance, like if I want to draw some construction lines, which means these are lines that I just need to draw to figure out how far 5 feet away is, and then put another line off of that. We can utilize different layers to help us so that way when our final drawing comes out, we can turn off all these other lines that we don't want to see and we can just show what we want, right? It also allows you to have the different objects by different colors so you can see them a little easier. Okay, but we'll get more into layers in a future class. Okay, tonight is just, we're just going to be utilizing this 0 layer. All right. So before we get going, I want everybody to go ahead and close your AutoCAD. Yep, you heard me right. I want you to close your AutoCAD. We opened up the template. Cool. We talked about it. Now we're going to do one thing where we create a new project. So right now you'll notice that at the top of my screen, this says construction 241 spring 2025 template .dwt. DWT is drawing template. DWG is a normal drawing. So if I was to draw on this right now and save it and create a new drawing from my template, every time I create a new drawing, whatever's on my template is going to be there, right? So if I did a bunch of work and we just save this, next time we create a new blank drawing off the template, we're going to inherit all of that old work, right? So to prevent that, we want to create a new drawing utilizing the template. So I'm going to go ahead and close. No, I don't care to save it anymore. And what I want to do is now go to open up AutoCAD. Oh, and now we're back to this menu, right? This is what's called the splash screen. It's going to show any of your recent projects. So if I just clicked on this template, it's going to open the template back up. And that's not necessarily what we want to do each week. What we want to do, earlier I had you click this open button just so you could see where you're going, what the template was, kind of get a little feel for it. This time I want to click this new button. And instead of just clicking new, I actually want to click this drop down to the right, and I want to click browse template. So it may be the second one down, it may be the third one, it may be the first one, right? Whatever it is, we want to go to browse templates. And this time I saved a copy into my template folder, but I'm actually going to browse and go to my downloads, right? Just so you see the same thing that I'm seeing. Spring 2025. And I'm going to go ahead and click open. Now, the difference between this and the last one is when we opened the last one up, it was called spring 2025 template.dwt. This will now be called drawing1.dwg. Okay, so what it's doing is, and we're actually, this is the last place we saved. It gets you good at moving between model space and paper space, so that's kind of cool. But every time we open this up now I can draw this circle on it and draw a line on it. And now when I save it, I can save it as, I'll go to my desktop and save it in my folder, admin spring, and I'll save it as week 2. But since I saved it as its own DWG, even though I drew this circle and this line on it utilizing the template, if I go back to this start screen and click new again, and once you've clicked it once, it'll come up here. So you can just click the top option. I'm back to square one, right? I don't have any of that work that we did today, right? So what we're getting at is we want to utilize the template every week to create a new drawing. We don't want to just keep opening the template and saving all of your work over the top of it. Does that make sense? Are there any questions? because I know that for the next 3 weeks, I'll see submissions or something that people save this template and they don't open a new DWG. Okay, it happens all the time. But I want to get used to trying to open this up correctly. So each week we're going to create a new project utilizing that template. Once we get to week 3, 4, 5, maybe somewhere in there, we'll go in and we'll edit that template. We'll look at how to add things to it. We'll save that template and then we'll utilize it again. But we're saving the settings. We're not necessarily saving the content that's on it.
We're opening up the DWT, we're working on the DWT, and then we're saving it to DWT.
No. Close. So we're creating a new DWG by using the DWT. So you should never be drawing in something that says DWT at the top of your screen. If you are, you're drawing in the template. Okay? Questions? I'm going to delete this. And yes. Why would you open your downloads if you moved it to your desktop? Whatever, you copied it to it, so you got it in 2 places. All right. No, we're not going to close the drawing. We're going to close the template. Do you still have the template up or do you have the drawing? Perfect. So leave that open. That's what I'm working on. That is what you're working on. Just go to the model space. And then we're going to save this as week 2 construction, whatever, DWG. Okay. So it should be saving as a DWG. Good. Awesome. But that is what you ready. Okay, so let's do browse templates. No, that's how it goes.
Okay, that was not open.
And now we should have I just want you can see the right feet and since you've got all these layers.
Okay.
So that's exactly it. And now you go save that if you want. All right. Is there anyone on the Zoom session that still has DWT, the drawing template, not saved as a DWG? Okay. Right on. Okay. So tonight we are now all playing ball on the same field. We have units that are the same. We have We've got layers that are the same, which we're not going to get into layers tonight too much. We might touch a little bit on it later if we get that far. But we've got dimensions and we've got text, and they're all the same size, right? You've got a 2-inch. So when I click this text annotation drop down, and it gives me a text size and a dimension size, I've already given you and made some styles that are going to work for you instead of it starting off and your dimensions are 150 feet tall or whatever it is end up being. All right. So the basics of tonight is to learn how to utilize our drawing commands. Okay. Last week we went over making a title block. Basically just by utilizing the line tool and then the copy tool, right? We drew the lines around it. We then copied a line up, copied some lineups over. We did use one of our modifier tools, which is trim, right? We trimmed those edges together. But we didn't get too advanced into the actual drawing tools. So if I go to, let's go to home, and I click this drop down, you'll see that there's more tools than just these few that you see up here. Okay. So we'll get into some of this a little bit more, but most of the tools that we're going to be utilizing are going to be part of either a line, polyline, maybe an arc, maybe some type of a rectangle or a polygon. Okay. And so tonight's assignment, what we're going to be doing is just making a basic flower garden. Okay. This assignment allows us to utilize some basic commands and basic modifiers that will allow us to copy something, maybe mirror something over, and just get a feel for how this program actually behaves. One thing that you'll notice is in this template, if you want something to be 12 feet, you need to tell it you want it to be 12 feet with the actual foot mark, or 144 and enter, right? So this is in feet and inches. So any measurement you give it is automatically going to assume it's in inches unless you tell it feet. Okay, so if I draw a line that's 144 long, okay, and I zoom in, you'll now see in the properties right here, I've got a length of 12 feet, right? Confirming that when I type 144, it's actually 144 inches, not 144 feet, right? So just one thing to, be aware of, right? If you want to draw something in feet, just get used to putting the feet and inches symbols, okay? If you want to do all your math in inches, that's fine too, okay? If you want to just 78 inches here or 64 and a half, right? But I'd much rather see 5'4.5", right? That makes sense to my brain. So if you like things in inches, you can keep it. But like if I was to copy this 5 feet away, I would use my copy command and actually copy it, hit enter, give a displacement point, and then tell it 5 feet with the foot mark. If I just tell it 5, it's going to be 5 inches, right? Okay, and that actually copied that 5 feet away. And if I drew a dimension between them, you'll see that that is truly 5 feet, right? So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to delete this. We'll clear out the screen. And I want you to start by drawing a line. Okay, again, this doesn't matter where you start your drawing on the screen. If you like these grids, you can keep them on. I personally don't care for the grids on. I mean, unless I'm dealing with something that's truly on a grid. But I'll turn these off. So these grids are right here in the bottom. Okay. Same thing with almost anything. If you just type it in the command grid, and it's going to say, hey, what do you want it to do? And you can say on or off or snaps or whatever you want it to do. Maybe you could also change the size right there. Right now it's on a 1/2 inch grid. So I could change this to 1 inch or change it to a foot grid. Right now, I don't really care about it. I'm going to turn it. Okay. The next thing that you're going to see next to the grid is these dots. And so what this is snap mode. Okay. So if I turn the grid back on, and again, you can barely see that grid. I know that. Do you have a question? Okay. I know you can barely see the grid, right? But if you use this snap tool, when you draw, move your mouse around and you try to draw, it will want to snap to grids. And maybe the grids are, certain lengths apart, right? I don't care for it. I would rather keep both of those off, to be honest. Okay. They are useful if you set your grid up in a way that is helpful to you. Tonight, we're not going to worry about a grid. Maybe down the road, if you guys really care, we can worry about them. But to be honest, using some grid lines as an actual grid line versus the grid feature is a much better method. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our first line. And again, you may need to zoom way in, right? I don't know how far out it's zoomed. It may be zoomed out that you're looking at it from like 35,000 feet up, right? So if you draw a line that's only 12 feet or maybe even only 3 feet, right, it might be hard for you to see it. So if I drag up and it's wanting to snap polar, I'll say I want to draw it 3 feet and hit enter. And now I hit escape. I can barely see that little speck on the screen. I actually can't even see it. If I have a little tiny object on a big screen and I need to find it, I can use some tools. So this is pretty important if you get yourself lost. If you're like, I don't know where any of my content is. I'm out in outer space, and you literally feel like that. Sometimes you're like, I'm looking for Mars, but I'm on Pluto and there's no connection between the two of them. You can use your zoom feature. So if you type in zoom into the command line, it will bring another set of commands up. And if you hit this E or zoom extents, it's going to bring anything that's in your window as zoomed as tight as possible. So right now, this line is 3 feet tall, and I can see that by clicking on it and seeing right here that my length is 3 feet, okay? But it zoomed me right into it, okay? So even though I was way out here, if I use my zoom, E, or zoom extents, right? The other keyboard shortcut for it is just Z, enter, E, enter, and you'll find all of your work, okay? So if you put something in the top right corner and something in the bottom right corner, okay, if I draw another line that's up here, now I type in Z, E, it's going to put those, zoom in as close as possible, and you zoom out one click and you know where you're at, okay? So zoom extents is one of your best friends when you're starting to learn how to navigate this program. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete this one line, and we're going to be left with just this first line that we drew. So let's go ahead and utilize this line. It's 3 feet tall, okay? And how big are fence boards typically? 6 feet, okay? 5 by 1, okay? So if this is a picket fence, and this was a 3 foot tall little fence, how wide do we want this little picket to be? Maybe 6 inches, something like that. We don't want it to be massive, right? But 6 inches sounds good. Maybe we only want it 4 inches. Let's do 4. Okay. So what I want to do to start off with, we drew the line. Okay. The next thing I could do is I could draw another line to find another point, or I could utilize what I know and copy this line. Okay. So AutoCAD is all about utilizing what you know and where the known location is. So if I take this line and use my copy command, now again, this is copy, and this is copying with a base point. Okay, so you actually copy this. We're going to click a base point, give it a direction, and then give it a distance of 6 inches. Okay. I said 4. 6. I don't really care. You can do 4 or 6. Okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings either way. So, but what that allowed us to do is now know that this is 6 inches wide, right? So now this line is exactly 6 inches away. Whereas if I deleted this line and just tried to draw another line, well, how do I know that that's 6 inches away from the original? How do I know where that is at all? Right? You don't until you go back and dimension it. Okay. And so if you can utilize known dimensions or known objects, meaning I know one side of this is, 6 inches from the other, we can copy straight over 6 inches and not have to come back, dimension it, and then move it, right? We want to go ahead and place things with intent and not just place another object and then try to dimension later and then move it. Okay. So right now, if I did dimension this, I just guessed on it. And you can see that that's 7 3/8 inches away, right? So just going in and putting another line isn't really helpful, right? Copying something that you know is very helpful. Okay. And copying it using this actual copy, not just Control C, Control V, allows you to give it a base point and now give it a length of displacement, saying, hey, I'm going to copy from here to here, and this is the exact length, and it's always going to be true. And I can, put in whatever length I want, and it's going to be right. Okay. All right. So we got one line copied 6 inches away. Let's go ahead and draw another line from the top left corner of the first line to the top corner of the second line. And once again, let's go ahead, hit escape between commands, and we'll just draw a line again to create this rectangular fence post. So just to confirm, because I like to make sure that my drawings are the right size and everything, I'm going to go ahead and click this linear button up here. And that's what's under the annotation tab. And that's going to create a linear dimension. So what this allows me to do is any 2 points, it will connect. Okay, so if I grab this side and down to this side and pull to the left, I will see I have a 3-foot dimension. And again, if I did the same thing from the bottom left to the bottom right, you'll see that I have a 6-inch dimension. Now, I just drew these here just to confirm that this fence post is the size that I was telling you it was, right? A 3-foot tall, 6 inches wide. And we got that just by utilizing our draw command with known lengths, right? We drew a line, called it 3 feet, and then we copied that line 6 inches over. All right, so let's use some more fun commands. So before we get too crazy, I want to draw one more line and just double check for me. It should be on, but let's go down to this bottom square. So the square within a square, it's the object snaps button. And if you click the little triangle to the right of it, you should see that all of these object snaps are turned on for you. Okay. If they're not, please do so. Okay. And you can turn them on just by clicking. If there's a blank space next to it, you can just click next to it and it will turn the check mark on. All right. So why did I do that? Because I want to make sure that the midpoint object snap is turned on. If this midpoint isn't turned on, we're not going to be able to do the next step. So what I want to do is draw a line that is 6 inches tall from the midpoint of this fence post. So I'm going to take this from the midpoint. Now the midpoint is always a triangle. Endpoint is always square. And you may see some other ones right there. That is your nearest. Okay. You may see some like this, a node, maybe a parent intersection shows up, right? But we're looking for the triangle right now. So we go click the triangle, drag our mouse straight up and type in 6 inches. Hit enter and escape on our keyboard. All right. And we're going to go ahead and draw a couple more lines, and then we'll use our first modifier. So let's go ahead and utilize our line tool again.
I got a quick question.
Yes.
Hey, so when you know how your crosshair turns into like that little black palm when it moves it around? How do you do that? How do you drag it?
Yes. Okay. Good question. So real quick, operating Revit and or AutoCAD is the same basic commands when it comes to your mouse. If you don't have a mouse, I highly suggest you use one. It's hard to utilize this program to its extent with a trackpad. You just can't do the same maneuvers you can do with a mouse. But with a mouse, you can zoom in, you can zoom out utilizing your wheel. Okay. If I zoom out and move my mouse somewhere else and zoom in, it's going to zoom into the center portion of my mouse. Okay. So sometimes you'll realize, oh, why is this moving on me? It's because you keep moving your mouse to a different area. If you zoom in straight on it, it will zoom straight into it. Okay. So last thing, and this is what was coming up, is how do I get this black palm to show up? Okay. So if you actually click your middle mouse wheel and hold it, you can then pan right and left and move your screen around. Okay, so zoom in, out, pan right and left. And that's pretty much the best navigation.
So that's only happening if you got a mouse with a wheel, not the laptop with the
You
pad.
cannot, if
Okay.
you do, yeah, a trackpad, I don't know what it all depends on what you have set up, but with a trackpad, you're not going to be able to utilize as much. You can always do this though, is you can hit Z, enter, E, enter, and then just, let's see if you don't have a wheel. So you can utilize your trackpad. See, this is the thing. Look, I'm trying to zoom in and out with a trackpad. I have no
It's
control.
a nightmare. Yeah, I was gonna say.
You need to go spend $10 and get a mouse if
Yeah,
you don't have
we'll do. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you can't operate this program. I mean, I don't know if you can see what I've got 2 of these. It's the Logitech MX Master, and I mean, you've got a nice mouse. Like you need a mouse to make this program work. The trackpad just I thought, oh yeah, I could do everything back in the day on a trackpad, which is true. Most everything in my college career, yes, I could do on a trackpad, not modeling. Not with something that you're rotating views 3D, and even this with just basic 2D, you really need to have that pan and zoom capabilities. All right, great question though. So I'm going to zoom, Z, enter, E, enter, bring this back. And I'm going to draw my line from the top left-hand side of the post to the top of my 6-inch line, and then one more down to the other corner of my post and hit escape. Once I've got that, I can now take these couple lines that I drew and just erase them. I don't need them anymore. They were just there so I could get endpoints, right? So I drew the middle one here just so I could get the endpoint off of here and go 6 inches up to get the point. All right. So the next thing I want to do is I want to draw a line. And if yours is 4 inches or 6 inches, it may look a little different. But what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line from this top endpoint. And I want to draw a line 2.5 inches long and hit enter. And once I've hit enter, I'm going to go ahead and hit escape. Okay, so I'm just left with one line sticking off to the right. Again, these are just dimensions. I'm going to go ahead and just delete them so you don't see them for reference and you're only seeing my drawing. But I'm drawing this line 2.5 inches to the right of the top right corner, or what would have been the top right corner until we added the very top peak. Once I've got that line, I want to go ahead and move it using my move command. So the move command works the same way as the copy command does. You're just not left with the original, right? So if I copied something from a base point down 6 inches, I now have my original and my one 6 inches away. If I move it from the base point 6 inches away, I just have the new moved one. It's not a copy, right? So I'm going to actually do that. I'm going to utilize my move command, move this straight down, and you may need to make sure your ortho is turned on. Okay, right now mine's not. I can go to a parent intersection and I can give it a displacement value, but I want to make sure that it's actually ortho. So I'm going to turn the ortho on and then just tell it 6 inches. And it will move that line down 6 inches. All right. One more step, and then we get to do some mirroring. So we're going to take this at 6 inches down, and I'm going to actually make a copy of it. And I want to copy that down. Let's go 2.5 inches. So I'm on my ortho, right? Making sure I'm copying straight down, and I'm going to type in 2.5 inches. Okay. You could just type in 2.5 and hit enter. I like getting into the habit of typing in my feet and inches just so I know what my units are, right? And once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and hit escape to exit the command. All right, so far so good. This, 2.5. So it's 6 inches down from the top, then the first line, and then we got 2.5 to this. Just copy it with a base point, give it a direction, and then tell it 2.5 inches.
First line is 6 inches down, and then the second line 2 inches below that.
2.5 below that. And the line length is 2.5 inches long. Okay, it doesn't necessarily matter if these are perfect, but you'll see what's going on when we get to the next step. All right. So I like things to be symmetrical, but I don't want to spend time measuring and drawing construction lines that then allow me to put this 6 inches, right? This we already had to do some effort to get this into place, right? We drew it, we moved it down 6 inches. We know now where that top is, right? We know that the bottom is 2.5 inches down from that because so could I do the same thing backwards from the bottom? Sure. Do I need to if I want to make the same lines 6 inches from the bottom and 2.5 inches up from there? Do I need to do that math again or move it again? Or can we utilize some type of a tool that might help us? So we're going to utilize the mirror tool. Okay. And in order to utilize the mirror tool, we need to draw one more line, and that's going to be a midpoint right here. So drawing a line off the midpoint of the right-hand side now gives me a place that I can mirror from. So what that means is I'm going to take these two lines, and when I mirror, it gives you two options. It actually is kind of like copying and moving at the same time and mirroring. So what it does when I click this mirror, and I'm going to type in mirror in my command, or I can click this mirror command up here. And once I click that, it's going to say, hey, where do you want to mirror about? And we found the first point. We gave it the midpoint of here. So that's going to be my mirror point. Okay. And I can click anywhere along that line because we're going to mirror from the top to the bottom. So just flip the whole thing over. And if I go right there, it wants to put my objects in the right spot. And I'll go ahead and click again to now place the second point of the mirror line. And this is where you get one more option. So once I click, it's going to give me, do I want to erase the source object? And this is where I was saying it's kind of like moving, it's kind of like copying. You have the option to make it like you copied it down, or you have the option of making it like you moved it down, depending on what you want to erase. So you could erase nothing, both of them stay. You could erase the original, and now you just have the copy, right? So like you were to move it, except you moved it by flipping it upside down. Does that make sense? Okay, I don't want to get rid of my source object, so I'm going to click no. And now I have my two little, pieces between my fence post. And I can click on this line and delete it. Okay, so a lot of lines, sometimes you'll draw it, you'll use it temporarily, and then you can it, right? It's there so you have a line or a point to grab when you're doing a command, but after that, it may not serve a purpose anymore.
Graham, can you run over that mirror one more time?
Sure. Let's go back a few steps. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a line. So the point of this exercise is to mirror this line, which is 6 inches down from the top, and then the other one that's 2.5 inches down from the bottom, and make it symmetrical to coming off the bottom. So we have a line at 6 inches up and then 2.5 from there. So instead of doing that twice, because we did the work up here to get it in the right spot, we can now just utilize a line off of the midpoint. So anywhere you want, not anywhere you want, sorry. Anywhere you see that triangle pop up, you can drag it. And this line could be a 1/4 inch line. It could be 20 feet long. It doesn't matter. We're going to delete it later. Okay. But this is a line that now gives us something to mirror the object about. So I'm going to click both of these small lines, go to my mirror tool, and now I want to choose the first point of the mirror line. Up here, it's got two triangles that are back to back. One of them's blue, one of them's right under the rotate. Okay, and I'm going to choose my 2 points. So I'll choose the endpoint of each of this line. It really doesn't matter where you choose as long as it flips at the right direction. So if you click this mirror, I'll choose this endpoint. I'll choose this other endpoint, or I could choose anywhere along it, right? It doesn't matter as long as I'm not somewhere else that is trying to flip it to the left side over here, or that's my only other option. So I'll click this endpoint and then erase the source object. I'll click no. Now I'm left with both mirrored objects. And click and delete the mirror line. All right. So now that we've got this basic fence post with a, what is this called? What is this piece called? I don't know exactly. Yeah, exactly. Some 2x4 piece, right? Whatever. Okay. We have this, and I don't want to draw this over and over and over again, right? But I can utilize what I've learned and copy it over. So I'm going to go ahead and select everything. So if I click this top left, okay, now there's a couple different ways to select. If you click and hold your mouse, okay, which I don't recommend doing, but some people might do it, you're going to get this funny looking thing like this, okay? And it's saying, hey, I'm going to select wherever this mouse encompassed. And maybe it grabs what you want, but a lot of times it's just annoying. So instead of clicking and holding, just click once and drag your mouse, and you'll have a selection window. Okay, and the selection window keeps it rectangular. It's not going to go all funky. When you're selecting an item, okay, you can obviously just click an item and click another one, and it's just going to keep adding items to your selection set. Or you can window select them. So utilizing this click and drag your mouse down or up, right? It doesn't matter. Activates the window selection. And when you're in window selection, if you drag from the left-hand side, okay, so right now I clicked over here, I'm dragging from the left to the right, okay, you'll notice that it only selects this line once the entire line has been encompassed in that space. Okay, so if I just grab this, right, the only line that's totally in that space is that vertical line, right? So I have to grab everything. And a lot of times that's what you want, okay? Now you can also go the other route. And if you move from right to left, now anything that this thing touches whatsoever, it doesn't have to be the whole thing. If it touches one part of that line, it will select. Okay, so two different ways to window from left to right. You have to encompass the whole thing to get it selected. From right to left, you just have to touch it. But a lot of times you may end up grabbing more items than you want when you grab right to left. Okay, two different options. And then again, if you click and hold and get something like this, it works. But if you drag this back across itself, it will deselect. Okay, whereas when you window an item, it windows or it doesn't, right? So any questions on that, just about selecting? Okay, and if you wanted to, you could come here and click each one of these individually. Oh, sorry. Okay. I could click each one of these individually, just keep adding it. But I don't like to click that much. I'd rather just grab it in one spot. All right. So let's go ahead and take this fence post and our little spreader and let's copy it. Okay, so we're going to utilize the first command, which we've utilized before with our title block. Okay, and we're going to copy this thing with a base point. Now, one thing that, if you're paying attention, we had a 6-inch post and a 2.5 inch. Gosh, that's a terrible marker. A 2.5 inch space, right? For a total of 8.5 inches. If you did a 4-inch post, you need to change this to moving it 6.5 inches, right? Instead of 8.5. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy using our copy command, COPY, enter. I'm going to choose the displacement, which is, and again, it doesn't matter where you choose your displacement as long as you give it a direction and a distance. Okay. So I could choose this point right here and try to have it like snap to itself. I could choose this and bring it back this way. I don't care what I do because I like having a distance. I know that distance is going to be right all the time. Okay, so I'm going to click this point, move my mouse to the right, and I like to move my mouse. I like to zoom out and move my mouse way to the right. What this does, and you'll see this in a second, is when I paste this, the next item should automatically be copied, right? I can keep copying this down and down and down and down. If I keep it right here, which is fine, no big deal. Okay, if I copied it, right here, 8.5 inches over, okay, the next one, it's going to try to just place it right on top of each other, or it's going to try to put it somewhere up or down. But by me bringing this ortho lines way out there, I could type in 8.5 inches. And then I believe this one, and the way that this works, now this one's a little different than Revit. So Revit, you could just keep typing 8.5, 8.5, 8.5, and it would keep adding from your last place. This one, we can type in 8.5, but the next place we'd actually have to type in 17 inches because we're moving it. So in order to get it in the next spot, I believe you'd have to type in 17 inches, and that would put it there. So is that something I want to do every time, is keep adding numbers to it? No, right? Once I have one of them copied, once I got one of them copied, I'm going to go ahead and just utilize what I've got in front of me. And I'm going to copy the second one from this first one. And what that means is I can now utilize this endpoint right here, this bottom endpoint, copy. And I can just copy from this bottom endpoint to this bottom endpoint to this bottom endpoint. And it's going to just keep copying one to the right each time. Now I've got something with, oh, I went too far. But now I've got something with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll just do 8 posts. And you can get rid of any other lines that you may have. Sure, let's go through that step again. I'm going to go back. So we now have 2, right? We copied 1 over. We knew that it was 8.5 inches away. It was a pretty easy thing to do. The reason we couldn't do this the first time is we didn't have a secondary point for us to grab. We could try to grab off of here and copy to the edge of that, but it gets really tricky. But now since we've got a base point here, okay, I can take my second one and copy from my first location to my second location. And what that's going to do is it's going to take a fence post and keep adding 1 to the right of every place that I copy and paste to. So I'm going to use my copy command, COPY, enter. I'm going to choose the bottom left corner. I could choose the top corner, top here. It doesn't matter what point I choose. The important part is that I click that exact same point every time on the next copy over. Okay, so this time I'll choose from the top point and I'll copy it from here straight over another copy. So now I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I can take these and get rid of my little tail. That work? All right. So anyone know any other ways that we might be able to accomplish the same task, but instead of us having to click a bunch of times, we can do it with a more systematic method?
I think the array module.
So that I like your idea. Very good. Was that Ibar that said that?
Oh no, it's me, Zach.
Exactly said. Okay, I don't see faces. I because my screen's up. So, very good, Zach. That's what I'm going for. So we had a comment in here that said, "Hey, instead of copying this each time over again, you could copy it 8 times, and then we could copy like these 7 right over, and we could keep copying. And then you could paste that, and then you could grab all of it and paste it again. And yes, you could do that and keep doubling the length every time, but that's a lot of manual labor, a lot of effort on your part. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this right here, just the first, and I'll actually grab it from the right-hand side. So this is a really good reason why they have both options. So if I'm trying to just select this fence post and the 2 spacers to the right of it, and I use my left to right method, I have to get everything, and maybe I'm doing right. I've got to get the whole length of that one, right? And as soon as I try to get these ones captured in there, it picks up the next straight piece over, right? Whereas I could click in right here, somewhere between these, drag right to left, and now just select those items. Okay, so there's not one that's better than the other. It's what you have in front of you and how you want to try to select it. You can always come and deselect items too. If you hold shift, you can click an item and you can deselect it from your selection set. If you just click it again, you can add it back to it. Okay, so there are some options there, but I like being able to utilize my right to left and just sneak in between those 2 fence posts and grab the cross braces. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and use my copy again, and I'm going to copy this down. Let's just go ahead and copy it down 5 feet. All right, so now we should be left with a brand new setup of what we had before, but instead of copying this with a base point and pasting it one after another, after another, after another, or even pasting it and then recopying and pasting and recopying, we're going to utilize the array tool. So if I select it all, okay, and then I come up here and I click my array, okay, you'll notice that right now it's got a bunch of squares on it. And that's what's called a rectangular array. Okay. And that's what we're going to be dealing with tonight is the rectangular. Next week, or maybe later tonight, if we get this far, if we might utilize the polar array. And then at some point I'll show you the path array. Okay. But the rectangular array is typically the one that I'll use, especially for any linear objects. And what it allows you to do is it says, hey, this distributes object copies into any combination of rows, columns, and or levels. So create an array of rows, columns of copies of the selected object. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, select my object, click this rectangular array. And now you'll see right off the bat that it's automatically trying to do something for me. It's putting other ones all over the place. And maybe we should just move this real quick. So what I want to do is I want to take this whole thing, use my move command, and I want to move this singular object just to the right over here. Get it away from that other fence, just so that way when we start arraying this, you can see what's going on instead of seeing stuff on top of the other fence that we had going. So now that this fence post is off on its own, I'm going to select it all again, utilize my array tool. And this is where it gets confusing for some people because right off the bat, I haven't hit enter. I haven't done anything, but it's automatically populating all these other ones, right? Do I want that? Yeah, I want it to populate because what it's doing is it's saying, hey, this is a preview of what's going to happen if you use the settings that are up here. So, but instead of using the settings that are up there, I want, or that are currently up there, I should say, I want to modify it, make it my own. So do I want any rows? I don't want rows above and below it, right? It's just a fence. So I'm going to change this from 3 to 1. And as I do that, I can hit enter inside of this and it will change the look, the preview, right? Down to whatever I have selected without me closing the array. So I'm still in the edit array mode. So now I know that I want 1 row, columns. I'm going to do the same as I did before. I want a total of 8 columns. Okay. And it's not I want to add 7 to this, right? So you wouldn't put 7 columns. You'd put 8, including the original array. Okay. 8 columns. And I want a total distance between them, right? Of 8.5 inches, right? And now, and maybe I don't want 8. You know, maybe I want to double that and make it 16, or, you know, then I could copy that and make it 32. Right off the bat, I can just type in 128 and hit enter, and here we go. Now I got my prison lined up for me. Right? So utilizing these modifying tools can be very helpful for mass productions of items. Okay. Do I want that many rows? Probably not, or columns. I'm going to go ahead and just say 10 for now. And you'll notice that, okay, we got 10 columns. Good. And I'll hit check mark to close the array. Now, one thing you'll notice, this array now has this piece built in, right? Because instead of copying it and being able to just delete this piece, we arrayed it. So we actually, that piece is built into the item, right? So does anyone know how we might be able to delete those edge pieces? Bram, I like your thought, but no. Right
explode.
Explode. Woohoo! Right on. So right now, these objects are grouped together because of the array. We're saying, hey, this object, we want to copy it over 8 times. And when it does this, it's saying this is now a single object. All these lines are grouped together. But with the explode command, you can take anything that's grouped and make it back to its individual line segments. So if I take this whole thing, I'm going to go ahead and just close the array. Now that the array is closed, or actually, I guess I have to have it open to be able to do this. I thought I was in the edit mode, but I'm still on the outside. Now I can type in explode. And I now, instead of having one item, I now have, I don't know if it doesn't give me a count, but I've got a lot of, oh, right there, 90, right? I got 90 line segments. So now I can take these last couple, delete them if I want to. Okay. So this is looking good. I like where this is going, but I need some way to get into my yard, right? So I'm going to go ahead and utilize my arc command. And before we do the arc command, let's go ahead and build another fence post. So if I'm going to go ahead and undo that. And you can just hit Control Z a few times. I'm going to leave this array connected because we're actually going to utilize those two spacers. So I'm going to draw a line from here to here, and then just extend it down. Extend it down to the apparent intersection. So if I go over to the endpoint here and then drag my mouse back, you'll get this little X right there, and that's what's called the apparent intersection. And so it's going to say, hey, here's the spot where those two lines would meet if those two lines actually continued. So I'm going to draw a line there. And then I'm going to take this line and I'm going to draw it. Oh, let's just stretch it another. Let's stretch it another 18 inches. And now I can copy this line. And I'm going to use like a 4x4 post here. So I'll copy this over 3.5 inches. Oh, and that copied it 3.5 inches down because my mouse went down when I went down to the command line, right? So copy, click, displacement point, and now 3.5 inches to the right. And we are almost to the point where we want to add a little gate. So I can draw a line across the bottom to complete that. And I'm going to draw 2 more lines. One of them is going to be let's go 2 feet to the right. And then the next one is going to be 2 feet up. And then if we take this and yeah, we'll have 2 on top of each other. So, and then I want to draw one more line from here up 3.5 inches. And I now should have the makings of my arch. And last but not least, I'm going to draw this intersecting line at 45 degrees out. So you'll have to take your ortho off to do that. And if you hold shift, let's see, will it give you? It's not giving me 45. That's okay. We can take the line that we have here and we can copy it. So let's actually take the vertical line we have. Let's copy it over 2 feet. And we will use our rotational command, which we haven't used yet. So up here, you've got this rotate modifier. Okay, and this is the same thing as the copy or the move. You need to give it a base point, and then you need to give it a direction of rotation, and then how many degrees you want to rotate it. So I'm going to rotate from this base point, rotating it to the left, and I want to rotate it 45 degrees. I typed in 45 and hit enter. You can see that right there, the 45. And now I'm going to move this 2 feet back to the right and put it back on that. Sure. All right, so I'm backing up to. So we've got this line right here, our vertical line. It's the one that's 2 feet long. I'm going to select this line and copy it using my copy command. And I'm going to copy it from this base point 2 feet to the right. Now I could not do this and like leave it on top of each other. The problem is once you rotate it, it's hard to figure out what line you're selecting. So by copying this over 2 feet and then moving it back, we can, sometimes it's easier to move your work over, do what you need to, and then put it back to where it needs to go. Okay, so I'm going to copy that 2 feet over, 2 feet. And then I'm going to use my rotate command. And when I click this, so after having this line selected, I click the rotate command, and it's going to ask me to specify a base point in which I want to choose the bottom of the line. I'm then going to give it a direction. So I want to put the line somewhere between, somewhere around negative 45 degrees, and then type in 45 on my keyboard. Right now with that negative 45, you're just kind of giving it a direction, right? And then 45 to set it. Once you've set that and hit enter, you can move this line back either 2 feet over or base point to end point, right? It'll move it right back to the base point.
The move command, or you just grab that corner?
I use the move command. I clicked here. I probably typed in move, and then I clicked the bottom corner, bottom endpoint, and moved it to the other endpoint for the intersecting vertical and horizontal line. Yeah, you're good. All right, so this was a lot of work, little tiny work, and they have gotten a lot better with this command. In Revit, the arc commands are incredible. It's so much easier to use. In AutoCAD, they have all these options, and none of them are great unless you set up framework for it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is let's do a 3-point arc, and I'm gonna click my first point, my second point, and then my third point, and it will go ahead and set that arc. And I'll do that one more time. I'm going to use this 3-point arc right here in the arc command. And that's by default. It starts with the 3-point. Everything else is, you can use them. It's just, they're a pain. They really are. So 3-point arc. Again, I'm going to click my first point, my midpoint, and then I want to click the bottom of those, right? I want to click this endpoint that's 2 feet up. I did one that's a little higher, and you'll see why in just a second, but we want to click the endpoint that's 2 feet up, not 2'6". And so that actually looks like a 90. Whereas if you move this up to here, right, that kind of elongates it, right? So once I have that first one, I'm going to use my copy tool and copy it from this endpoint straight over to the next one. And now I can take this and stretch that up. And I guess I can draw a line here if I want to make the midpoint change. It looks pretty good though. Something like that. I'll do it right. So now I'm just going to draw a line. And I'm going to draw a line from here straight up. And I'll turn my ortho on. And I could draw it straight out if I could get the angle right. And you can see that right there, we can kind of get that angle. If I turn my ortho off, you can kind of see it can go parallel or perpendicular, but it's really hard. So what I like to do is I'd like to, rather than trying to play this game of, am I clicking the right spot? Is this right? I'd rather just draw this straight up, 6 inches. Is that 6 inches or no? That should be 3.5 inches. Sorry. Draw that up 3.5 inches. 3.5 inches. And then I'm going to rotate that with the base point being right here. And I'll rotate it 45. And since my ortho's on, it doesn't want to snap, so I'll turn that back off. Make it 45. And now my outside arc, I can move this midpoint. And so that's actually a true arc with a 3.5 inch gap all the way through it. And once I've got those, I can delete this and this and that. And I now have an archway opening, or at least half of one, right? What tool can I use in one shot to finish the picture?
Mirror.
Here. Okay. So I'm going to take this whole thing, select everything, utilize my mirror command. Since I already have 2 endpoints right here that I can mirror about, I don't need to draw a line. Okay, so I'm going to use this mirror command. It's say, hey, specify your first point of the mirror line. I'm going to say this endpoint here, and the second one will be this endpoint here. And no, I don't want to erase the source object. So N, O, enter, and now I have somewhat of a completed, front opening. There's a little 4-foot. Maybe we could put a swinging gate in there, right? Whatever. Is the goal in this class to draw pretty flowers all the time and gardens? No, but it's to get you to understand that these tools are powerful. Because we really only drew one of those fence posts, right? We drew half of an arc, and we now have a full picture. Okay?
You're on the game.
Yeah, if that. I mean, realistically, we've gone through this. This has been an hour since we started talking about the beginning of the first fence post there. And yeah, if you're on your game, I mean, realistically, you could make this in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe. I mean, the biggest thing is just understanding how these tools work and what tools are available for you to use. If you didn't know about the array tool, right? You wouldn't be able to just plaster all those fence posts. You'd be copying them one at a time, or then you'd be finding a way to copy multiples, which is a good solution, but it's still more work, right? So all these tools up here, and we're going to get through all of them. Okay, we've utilized so far. We have utilized the line, the arc, we haven't really done anything with the rectangle yet, but the line, the arc, the move, the copy, the rotate, the mirror, the trim, and the array tool. Okay, so we've utilized, quite a few options already. And again, that's just touching there's all these other different types of tools too, that we can edit arrays, we can put hatching in, we can do, all types of different items, but you need to understand the basics first. Okay, so is there any questions what we've gone through tonight that I could help you with? The other thing we could do is we could try to draw one of my basic, like the flowers where we use a polar array. But I want to make sure that everyone's got what's on my screen. So anyone that's got questions, wants me to look at your screen, wants me to repeat a step.
Can you do that? Copy the second half of your fence again?
So you want to go back to
Not the fence, yeah, just your arc and
This?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna mirror this across. So a mirror is a copy, but an opposite copy, right? It's a flipped version of it. And the way we set this up, we left this open right here. So then that way, when we connect it, it will form a full arc, right? If I put a line through here, then you'd have a line in right in the middle of it once we mirror it. So if I just go ahead and select everything that's here and come up to my either my mirror command in the ribbon or type in MIRROR for mirror and hit enter, it knows what you want to mirror. You just now need to tell it where you want to mirror it. So I'm going to choose this top point of the arc. It's my first displacement or my first point, and then this bottom part of the arc. Ultimately, I'm just drawing that line right between where the two of them should be. And then I'm going to say, no, I don't want to erase the source object. And I'll be left with both halves.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, if no one else has any questions on that, let's go ahead and try to make a little flower real quick. This isn't going to be fancy at all, but it will be something that we can, work on and start using some more tools with. So let's go ahead. We're going to build a big sunflower here. Okay. And like always, I like to make something out here in my free space. And then if I want to move it behind the fence, I can do so later, right? I can grab it and move it. But trying to draw this flower between these is just going to kind of be a nightmare. So what I'd like to do is go up to the rectangle tool. Okay, and I want to create a rectangle. Now the rectangle, when I click this rectangle tool, could I do this with the line tool? Absolutely. But instead of having to create 4 lines, this is going to create one rectangle with 4 sides. So what I want to do, and there's 2 ways to go about the rectangle. If I go ahead and just click one point and then click another point, there we go. There's your 2 endpoints of your rectangle. But that didn't give us something that we know how big it is. We know the size of it, right? And dealing with known sizes is a really important thing to do in AutoCAD because everything is scaled, right? So instead of just willy-nilly clicking, if we click the first spot and then we type in 0.5 and we hit enter. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Nope. One more time. We'll do this once. We'll do it right. We're going to click a corner. We're going to type in 0.5. And instead of hitting enter, I want you to hit tab. And when you hit tab, come on. They're not. Huh. It's not letting me click tab anymore. That's annoying. You used to be able to click tab and choose between the 2 dimensions, but now it doesn't seem like it wants you to. You can click here. We can click this dimension. We'll just go ahead and do that.
Same thing,
Yeah.
Came back and you basically want a dimension triangle you can for rectangle.
Right. And so here's the way you can do it though without it. So we'll click this rectangle button again and down. So let's give it a starting point. Once you give it a starting point, you can come down here and click this dimensions. So if your automatic dimensions don't come up, like I was trying to get them to, I could type in, I used to be able to type in like 1 inch and hit tab and it would set 1 inch width. And then I could type in 15 and it would set a 15-inch height or whatever it was, right? Now it looks like they want to use this dimension tool, which is fine. So if you click anywhere, come down to dimensions. So it's saying, hey, what is the length of a rectangle? I want it to be, let's make it 5 feet. And what is the width of the rectangle? I want it to be 1 inch. And now, well, that didn't seem right. Why does it make it? Yeah, that wasn't cool. So I don't know why it's being a pain, but when in doubt, you can always come back to a tool you use that can work correctly, and we can draw this thing. Just draw it 5 feet up, another line 1 inch over, and another line 5 feet down, and another line over. So sometimes drawing 4 lines is easier than drawing a rectangle just because of the way the parameters work. Okay. So they made some updates from 23. That was the last version I taught in. You were able to hit tab and it would just allow you to just click your width, click your height, and apparently they don't like that anymore. So we did it the old school way by giving it a length for each line. So once I've got that, let's go ahead and draw a circle. And I'm going to come choose the center of this midpoint of the top. And I don't know. Let's see. I want the inside circle. I'll have this inside circle be, let's do it a 6 inch. And it's going to give you, that's going to be the actual radius that you type in. If you want to type in diameter, you can come down here and click diameter. But by default, it's going to have you typing in the radius. So a 6 inch circle will have be a 3 inch radius, right? Yeah, good enough for now. And let's draw one more circle. Same midpoint, but this time instead of 6 inch radius or 6 inch diameter, we'll make this a 12 inch diameter. So 6 inch radius. So once we have our basic center of our flower and our stem, let's give this thing some leaves. And I'm going to give it a leaf by drawing off the midpoint of the right side of the stem and drawing, and I don't care too much exactly what your angle is here or how long it is, however big you want. That's going to kind of be the center line of your leaf. Okay, and hit escape. So something that looks like that. And we're going to come here to our arc. We'll do start center angle. Let's do, just try and see if we can do the 3 point here. Start somewhere roughly in here. Again, you don't need to make it perfect. This is kind of an organic shape, right? It's a leaf. It's not exactly perfect. And then maybe I want to end it right there. And you can take this and move that midpoint around, right? Maybe you want to make it something like that. Good. And now once I've got one side, a leaf is pretty much symmetrical, no matter what the shape is, it's typically. So I'm going to take this arc and I'm going to use my mirror command and I'm going to mirror over the center of this stem leaf. And no, I don't want to erase the source object. Now that I've got one little leaf, I could take this and I can copy it. You know, maybe I want to copy it another time down here. And this one, maybe I want this one to not be so up and down, right? Maybe this one's sitting out a little bit farther. So I could use my rotate command, choose the base point, so the bottom of this leaf, give it a direction of rotation, and something like that. So now we got two different leaves. And I could take both of these and mirror them. And choose the center point of the stem here and the center point up here. And no, I don't want to erase the source object. And then maybe I take these and I move them up a little bit. Okay, so now we got some basic leaves on there. And it all started with just one, right? We made one. It actually started with a half, right? It started with the center of the leaf and a half of the leaf. We mirrored that over. We then were able to copy that and then rotate it to give it a little different angle and shape. And then mirror that about the stem. And maybe, just maybe, I like things to be, let's copy this one and I'll copy it from here to maybe there. And maybe this one wants to rotate. It's actually like almost straight up. Right? I don't know what they're going to do. Okay. But you can just as easily copy something, rotate it, and move it without having to draw it all over again. It's taking pictures right there. All right, so it is 7:45. Let's go ahead and leave off here for the evening. Next week, if you want, so here's your extra credit, okay? If you want to figure out how to draw a petal in the middle of that circle, right? Or maybe it starts here and you array it, right? Go ahead and try to use your polar array. Okay, maybe bust out your textbook if you have it. If not, then if you click on this and hover over it and hit F1, it will pull up all the instructions you need and all your guidelines of how to use those tools. Okay, so extra credit, half a point opportunity. Give me at least 8 sunflower leaves around the, yellow sunflower leaves around the center of that flower. Okay. Again, not a requirement, but if you want to go a little above and beyond, use the other tools. We will go over how to do that next week at the beginning. But give it a shot, right? It's one thing for me to hold your hand everywhere. My job is teaching you what tools are there, how to use them, and help you to start thinking about ways that you can utilize this software to your advantage, right? Make it work for you. Okay. I can't hold your hand all day and, do your work, but I can give you some tips and tricks and then show you, hey, you've got these tools, you know how to draw this, right? It's pretty much the same as the other array tool, just you need to set up, okay, how many times do you want to rotate it? So play with it, give it a shot. Okay. You learn a lot more by trying something and not getting it than by me just giving you the answer the first time. Okay. So utilize it, try to make some type of a sunflower out of this. And then what I want for submission is I want a screenshot that shows the flower and this fence. If you don't have, like, if they're too far apart and you need to submit 2 screenshots, that's fine too. If you want to zoom out a ways, I don't really care. Just don't zoom out here so I can actually see what's going on. And then last but not least, okay, please don't submit your actual DWG file. I'm going to end up saying this every week until we all get it right. I just want screenshots. Okay. So the reason being is every time you submit a DWG, in order for me to open it or to view it, I have to download it, then go open it up. And then you get to be one of these lucky people that are on my splash screen for the rest of my life. Okay. So not that it's a big deal, right? These are a lot of final projects, but screenshots is all I need. And then that way I can view it in Canvas. So if I'm going to pull this up and I hope that no one minds if I pull your thing up, I'm sorry. But I'm going to show what it looks like on my side. So if I go to my classwork, so All right, can everyone see that my screen? So this is great, right? This is a screenshot of just this background. Okay, it's a PNG or a JPEG is fine. Okay, when they are submitted as an AutoCAD file, and I don't mean to pick on whoever it is, but I just want to bring this up because I want people to be aware of why I say this. Right here. Okay. So Brittany submitted hers by the actual DWG, sent me the file. I can't see anything here. So it takes me 5 times, if not more than 5 times as long to be able to grade it, just because it takes me a few minutes just to even open it. Versus just seeing a screenshot right there. Boom, I got it. You can get your 2 points, right? There you go. Okay. So please, please, please help me help you by submitting screenshots of your work, not the actual file. The actual file can be submitted for or will be submitted for your final projects. But until then, screenshots are perfect. And if you need multiples, send me multiples. I don't care. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns?
When are the assignments due?
The assignments.
Yeah.
So technically, the assignments are, I would love, in a perfect world, everyone would get this, right? They'd get it right off the bat. They'd be able to just take a screenshot right now and send it in. It's not a perfect world. Some people have more struggles than others. That's why I provide these videos. My goal is for you to at least have your classwork turned in prior to coming to class the next time, okay? So if we could make that happen, again, if you're stuck on something, if you need a little more, I don't care. It's not a big deal to me, but it's going to help you by turning that work in prior. So that way you're engaged and you're continuing to learn and excel with the rest of the students rather than just being stuck. Because right now we're doing pretty basic things. It gets a lot more complex in the next few weeks, right? And everything in this class builds upon itself. Okay. So why I wasn't concerned that if you didn't turn in your title block, because we were still going to go back and start drawing stuff today, right? We're still learning how to use the functionality of this program. But when we get farther down the line, you're going to want to be turning it in weekly, making sure that you don't want to be that student with 10 assignments to do at the end of the semester, right? And you didn't really know how to do them because you didn't do them while you were in the class. So technically, I don't care if it's not turned in, but please try to get it in by the next week. Okay.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else? Okay. Once I'm done with this, I will, like I said, I leave my laptop open, just let my video convert. It takes about an hour and a half on my end just to convert it from its Zoom document. But I try to get it loaded tonight, so then that way in the morning I can post a link and everyone will see it. Would it be helpful? I know that I've done this in the past, and then I've also done this in the past without much response. Would it be helpful if I sent out a Canvas email when I post the video? Do people want that? Or because I don't care. If that's something that helps people understand that the video is up there, great.
Yes, it would. Thank you.
Okay. I'll send an email out and I'll try to include the link in the email as well. Okay, so there'll be a link in Canvas on the module as well as a link in that email just so you have a quick access to it and you could get to it from your email if you wanted. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week. And hopefully you can get something figured out. You did? Yes. Okay. So I actually can. So I can. Hold up. I know you're kidding. Here's the thing. So if I don't save this to my computer, okay, if I save it to the cloud, which it's a possibility, I did it last year, it then can make AI notes and all these transcribed things for you. The problem is the access that you have for it on the back end You're always having to put in a passcode every time. I can't overwrite that. You have to go through the Zoom module. Like it's annoying. So I can do it, but it also takes another data process. So I'd rather just do it this way. I know you're kidding, but
I don't know how automatic transfer.
well, and it does. We can do that. Right. Yeah. It just. Yep. Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody online.
Thank you.
Thanks, Graham.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.